So on my video where I had red flags that I am trying to avoid or that I am pointing out when it comes to building intentional relationships, I want to provide some guidance and some prompts to help you create a red flag list of behaviors that you're trying to avoid or that you are no longer tolerating when you are on your journey of building intentional relationships. So I typed out some prompts. I'm going to read them aloud and give you the space and time to respond to them. I will um, provide about like 1 or 2 minutes to give you time to reflect and write them down. And then I'll also um, give probably some examples of situations or information to help to guide you along with your prompts. So first, I want to get you in the space that you feel comfortable. You know what? Actually, I'm going to type my prompts out today, but I want you to get into a space that is comfortable, that has minimal or no distractions. And if you want to write down in a journal your reflection thoughts, and if you want to type it out, just do whatever makes you feel most comfortable. Just take a minute or two just to shake out any anxiety, any stress, and then just take a couple deep breaths. And take like 3 or 4 deep breaths. And just breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. Just take one more deep breath. And once you have found your comfortable space with minimal or no distractions, and you get in your writing material, or if you're going to type it out, go ahead and get ready to start on your reflections. So I will be providing prompts so that you can create a red flag list and a green flag list, and also giving you prompts to reflect on what you would like to have, behaviors, people that you would like to have as you're building your intentional community, your intentional relationships, your intentional soul tribe. So let's first go to the prompts for your red flag list. Now, this will be a list of behaviors or maybe like personality types or people. I'm really just sticking to behaviors of that you can add to your red flag list. So I'm going to read a couple of prompts, but I will have the prompts on the screen and in the description below so that you can, if you want to pause the video and take longer than 2 minutes to reflect, you can do so. What patterns of communication have I accepted from friends that drain my energy? What patterns of communication, whether that is gossiping, dismissiveness, passive aggressive comments, have I tolerated in friends that drain my energy? I'll give you about 2 minutes to write some reflection thoughts, and I'll write my reflection thoughts as well. Okay, I'll give you about 10 more seconds to wrap it up. Any reflections you have? All right, so the next journal prompt is, which habits, as in over apologizing, ignoring red flags, or, or minimizing your needs, have you allowed to continue even when you know it erodes your self worth? Which habits, such as over apologizing, minimizing your needs, and ignoring red flags, have you allowed to continue even though you know it erodes your self worth? And I'll give 2 minutes for this reflection as well. Okay, I'm giving you about 15 more seconds before we're done and move on to the next prompt. Okay, so those were the two journal prompts I had to reflect on what would be your red flags list and behaviors to no longer tolerate within relationships. I'll share a couple of my reflections for these two journal prompts. So, for the first prompt, what patterns of communications have I accepted from friends that drain my energy? So, as I mentioned in the in my first video, my last video on um, building intentional relationships, I mentioned passive aggressive comments was something that I experienced in the past. People who intentionally ignored me, gave me the silent treatment, backhanded comments, just so I don't, and I accepted those things just so I won't have to rock the boat within that dynamic because um, it was pretty obvious to me that the people I was dealing with were going through something. And I could get a sense of that, get an idea of that, because certain things like passive aggressive comments and silent treatments are things that I used to do when I was younger years ago. And I knew where it stemmed from. And for me, it mostly just stemmed from not having the words to communicate or thinking that the other person would know exactly why I'm taking these actions or not communicating certain things. I assume that they would know what's wrong, that something was wrong with me. So like I try to give other people space to give them time to communicate, but that usually never happened. And it just left me in a place where I was walking on eggshells. I didn't say much within that dynamic, within that relationship, because it felt like most of the time I didn't have the proper way to communicate things that I felt uncomfortable with, or I didn't like. And when I did have the words, I would say it, and I would get more of the negative communication of passive aggressive comments, backhanded compliments, things like that. So that's something within my reflection I noticed, which helped me to create my red flags list. In the next prompt, which habits like over apologizing, minimizing um, my needs or minimizing your needs, and ignoring red flags, which I should kind of edit it and say um, witnessing questionable behaviors or behaviors you're concerned with. So um, have and oh, so that I have allowed to continue. I couldn't get the rest of it out. And that erode my self worth. Um, I would say that behaviors like blame shifting and boundary violations were things that I were very in the beginning of previous relationships and relationship dynamics. I'm very strong and hold on to by my boundaries and making sure people, or at least I'm accountable for my actions, and I'm hoping other people will be accountable for their actions. So those are things that I hold on tight within a relationship dynamic, and in previous dynamics within people that I experience. I would witness boundary violations, and I would experience blame shifting, and it would be in a way where I can have a communication or a talk with them and let them know, like if it's blame shifting, I'll let them know this is not how I saw the situation, or I would say something on the lines of, this is not a situation where somebody is at fault, but um, it it happened so often and so frequently that even when I said something, it seemed like whatever I was saying was being ignored because the other party or other person was so gung ho on trying to defend themselves in a situation I didn't feel like needed to be defended so rigidly that I didn't feel like I could get through to them for them to understand that some of the habits, behaviors they were displaying were not something I felt comfortable with or something that I wanted to continue to tolerate within in the friendship. So that was my reflection thoughts for those two prompts. I and a way that I have turned my reflections into red flags is um, I was so my process was to reflect on relationship dynamics that were not having the outcome that I was expecting and try to find the trending um, or common denominator. I noticed over time that I would receive behaviors that were passive aggressive, excessively negative, blame shifting, things like that, and I noticed myself changing how I reacted in those situations, but I was still getting the same thing from the other people. And I would also make comments that something that they said, I didn't like it, or the way they said it was not necessary, but I would still constantly get the same um, reaction or the same behavior and habits from that other person. And after over time, I just realized I'm not sure what else I could do with all the tools and resources and knowledge I have. I didn't know what else I could do to change that dynamic. So over time, I just decreased how often I interacted with them and just changed my approach to interacting with them. So just the frequency of behaviors and patterns that you notice within in your responses and your reflection thoughts will help you or guide you to determining what your red flags could be when no longer tolerating um, negative behaviors within a relationship. Let's move on to prompts to help you determine your green flag list on building more intentional relationships on your in your journey. So just like with the first set of prompts, I will read the prompt. I will put the prompt on the screen and give you about 2 minutes to reflect and write down your thoughts. How do I recognize emotional safety in a friendship? Through tone of voice, consistency, or the freedom to be vulnerable without judgment? How do I recognize emotional safety in a friendship? Through tone of voice, consistency, or the freedom to be vulnerable without judgment? All right, I give you 15 more seconds to wrap up your thoughts. Okay, so let's move on to the next prompt. What specific signs tell me I am safe within a friendship or relationship? What specific signs tell me that I am safe within a friendship or a relationship? And some examples could be calm conflict resolution, mutual respect, or open communication. I'll give you 2 minutes to reflect. Okay, you have about 15 more seconds to wrap up your thoughts. Okay, so those are the two reflection prompts to create your green flag list for building intentional relationships. So, just to give you an idea of how I responded to the journal prompt, what specific signs tell me I'm safe within a relationship? I mentioned doing what they say, specifically with like open communication. If somebody says they're a good communicator and they show the actions and show the action that they are a good communicator and do it consistently, that's a sign to show that within a safe friendship or relationship. And understanding that we each have different needs. And if we have different needs, that doesn't mean that there's a reason to create conflict. If you have a need to, and this is going to be a very simple, basic example. If I have the need to um, stay up late because I'm a night owl, and the other person has a need to wake up early because they prefer doing things early in the morning. There's no need to cause a conflict within that. It's just we have different needs within our day, and people just operate differently. Things like that are just simple, and that don't need um, conflict or issues to arise. So those are just some ways I responded to those prompts. All right, so I want to have one more journal prompt so that you can think into the future of what you are looking for when you're building your intentional relationships, your community, and your soul family. So I'm going to leave you with one journal prompt that you can um, I'm going to leave you with one journal prompt so that you can reflect on this at your own pace and as time goes on, so you can just write down what you would like to have, what you um, have seen in other relationships that you look up to or that you would like to have yourself. What type of like behaviors and habits that you notice in relationships that you would like to be in or that you have experienced or been around, so that you can bring that and look for that, bring that into your relationships and look for that in other people. So here is a prompt to reflect on. When I clearly express my limits, such as time, energy, emotional availability, how does that influence the kinds of friends who stay in my life? When I clearly express my limits, how does that influence the kinds of friends who stay in my life? And um, as you spend time reflecting on this prompt, don't try to rush into it. That's the one thing. Don't try to rush into it. It will take time. Your just like your green flag list, your red flag list, that will evolve over time. So what you are trying to attract within the friendship or relationship will evolve over time, and you will see as you enter into new relationships or friendships what you can tolerate and what you can't tolerate anymore. So all of these prompts is just a starting point to help you to start reflecting on what you no longer like to see or have within your relationships and what you are hoping to attract and receive within the future. So this is just a starting point to get your mind comfortable with things, whether things should be changing and if they should change and what direction should I be going into and what will make me content and satisfied within these relationship dynamics. All right, so that would be the end of our reflection session. I guess I didn't know what to call it. Our reflections session. So as you're going through these prompts, write in the comments below any reflection thoughts that you came across, anything that was surprising, anything or behaviors or personalities or people that you find are patterns that you didn't know were patterns, or behaviors that you have received from other people that you realize, oh, I don't want to receive that type of behavior anymore. So let me know in the comments, and we can have a little dialogue down there about how you will be looking to attract new behaviors and dynamics within your intentional relationship building in the future. So I hope to see you soon. Bye.